All right. Britt Ghiroli from The Athletic swinging by on FT Live. Look what you got yourself into, Britt. How you doing? Any celebrity boxing matches, baseball related, that we are missing on this list?
I don't think so, guys. I would love to see maybe like all three of you guys get after it and like kind of see who's the strongest former player. I did see Todd Frazier the other day. He came to Baltimore. He looks like he's been lifting, so I think you gotta include him as well.
No, he hasn't. Don't let him. Don't let. Even though he's not on here, he hasn't been lifting.
He
has
said
a
he
gym.
was. He said he was.
No, he wasn't. He was just trying to. He was just trying to butter you up. He wasn't lifting. He's like, yeah, no chance.
Yeah. Maybe he saw my muscles and we're like, oh, I gotta tell Brittany I lift, or otherwise, I don't know. I'll be scared. He was doing radio though. Terrific. Yes.
Well, we'll work on lining it up because I do think Clemens Piazza still plays. I think that narrative still plays, and he said he'd never been asked about that, and then Clemens immediately replied. So there's juice to this. We're trying to stir it up.
You know who would be good would be like A-Rod and Poppy, or A-Rod and Jeter.
Yes,
who doesn't want to see those guys go after it, right? Like all the pent up. We know there's still some pent up feelings there. I want to see him go at it. A-Rod would crush him though. My money's on A-Rod all day.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to? No, I'm not going to say that.
AJ, tell your Fox people they're both teammates of yours now.
Yeah. But if you notice, they're never on with me.
No.
Yet.
Is AJ? Are you going to go head to head with Ken? I saw this Twitter beef.
Oh, there we go. I'll take that one.
I gotta tell you,
me versus Ken.
It's the easiest one.
Exactly.
I think I weigh more than Ken.
That's why I want that one, because it'd be easy money.
So unfair. Anyway, Britt, let's start with the Mets press conference. You know Buck Showalter for years. You've covered him with the Orioles. I know you were tweeting a little bit about the aftermath. So what did you report today? And yeah, you're taking a deep breath because get ready. Give us everything you've got on what's going on there, and also mix in the pulse of that press conference, because for me, I love Steve Cohen for speaking to the public, but at the same time, he didn't say much besides David Stearns will be either replacing or the boss of Billy Epler at some point in the offseason.
Yeah, it was so weird, right? It was like, say David Stearns' name without saying David Stearns' name. Everyone knows they want David Stearns. They wanted him for years. I wrote this about Buck because, to me, watching him with the media postgame is just quintessential Buck when things are not going well. You say, I walked into the stadium yesterday with an Oriole and we were laughing about how Buck has just been like, well, I wouldn't say that. The sky is blue. Well, I wouldn't go there. He's in prime contrarian mode, which is really what he does when things get bad. It's what he did after the Zach Britton game. He never apologized for kind of messing up. He never said, I should have used Zach Britton. No, he continues to say he has this reason for not using Zach Britton that he's going to put in a book one day. And it's like, we want that now. The Mets need explanations now. And I know he's taking a lot of bullets for people in analytics and people in the front office. And, Buck isn't making these decisions in a vacuum alone. So there's so many other people to blame for this. But he also has to do a little bit better than saying to the media who say, hey, who's starting on Tuesday? Oh, why do you want to know that? Do you want to know when you're going to die too? Like, what? Like, he has got to do a better job, in my opinion, of kind of streamlining the chaos. This is New York. It's not Baltimore. And those are televised. So, in my opinion, he's making things worse for himself, guys, by just making the post-game press conferences so awkward and so uncomfortable.
Is he a bad fit for New York?
Well, he's been in New York before, which is like the craziest thing. Like, we know he can handle New York.
He's different now.
But, yes, those Yankee teams, people forget, no expectations on those Yankee teams at all. Those weren't like the Yankee dynasty years. So I do think it's a little bit different now than it was when Buck was there. I don't think he's a bad fit because I talked to guys in that clubhouse yesterday who said, you're insane if you think he's lost the clubhouse. He's the best manager. He's the best guy for this job. But I do wonder long term if Steve Cohen is saying, hey, I can't fire anybody right now because I want David Stearns to come, right? It's like David Stearns is all they're thinking about right now. So he doesn't want to fire people mid-season. He wants to let them play it out. But I have a hard time believing that everybody is going to keep their job if the Mets miss the playoffs, which right now it would take a ridiculous miracle for them to get into that third wild card.
So, Buck, you were around Buck, obviously, in Baltimore all the time. he's changed. Everyone says, "Oh, Buck's changed. He's much more lighthearted." Because if you any person you talk to about Buck Showalter, he's the most prepared guy. Remember, he was like the no fun police there for a while, and he kind of changed into like ride around on like a scooter and all this weird Buck stuff. But my question is you mentioned his press conferences. He should know these things. He's been around forever. He knew what he got into when he signed this contract with the Mets. So where is this coming from? Because he's a veteran guy that knows the answers.
I know. Thank you, AJ. Can you give him a call? I mean, I talked to him today to make sure he wasn't mad about the column, and then he pretended he didn't read it, and we all know he read it, right? So he's like, "So wait, you crushed me, and now you're not coming into the stadium today?" And I was like, "No, that's not what I'm saying." I think he hasn't learned from his past mistakes, and it's weird because he knows what New York is like. He knows that the manager job, he's been hired and fired a tons of times. He knows as soon as things go south, he's going to be the one to blame. So I don't know why someone hasn't said, "Hey, let's get a little bit of a, more positive public face," or, let's kind of change the way that we talk to the media a little bit. Or if Buck is just, an old man in his 60s that's saying, "Listen, I'm doing it this way. I'm digging my heels in." I think that's probably the problem. And again, I think if you think Buck Showalter is the reason the Mets are bad, then you just haven't been paying attention to the Mets this season. But it's not helping matters when he's kind of, going through and starting fights with reporters. I mean, that's just really bad. These are on TV. These are live. This is supposed to be the guy that's leading you. He was NL Manager of the Year last year. And now he's like, "Well, I don't know why you're asking about leaving David Robertson in the bullpen." How could you not ask about putting David Robertson in the bullpen and not pitching that guy? I mean, that's all anyone wants to talk about. He's insulting our intelligence sometimes with some of these answers. And I don't know why such a smart guy thinks that this is the right way to handle all this controversy.
Well, you guys trained him too well in Baltimore. You guys didn't ask any hard questions. Or he trained you guys better, right? So he said, "Oh, I used to do this in Baltimore and when I was in Arizona and all these places." But is he the guy? Okay. Is he the guy? Because he's always been the guy that leaves and then the team gets really good after he's gone. So everyone thought, "Oh, we're hiring Buck Showalter with this $500 million payroll. He's going to take us to the promised land," but he never has. So is he the guy that can right the ship? Or do they just finish out the year and say, "All right, David Stearns, when you come in, you bring your own manager in"?
I think that unless they have a turnaround, that's a real possibility. That David Stearns comes in, they say, "Hey, what is it going to take to get Craig Counsell to come here? What's it going to take to get whoever David Stearns or Billy Epler thinks is the guy in here?" Because you're right. I think Buck excels at the backs against the wall teams, the teams where you're like, nobody wants you to win. No one expects you to win. The expectations are low. Buck is so great at rallying a group and saying, "It's us versus everybody," and everyone believes it and everybody cheers. The problem is this Mets team is not that. This Mets team is the team to topple. They entered, along with the Padres, as the team with the top expectations in baseball. So there is no like, "Hey, Max Scherzer, you're underrated. Hey, Justin Verlander, no one expects you to be good." No, everybody expects you to be good. And I think he's kind of really run the well dry there. He's not a rah-rah guy. He's not a morale guy. He's a guy that really does well with one group. And that's not the way this Mets team is built. Last year, they were supposed to not win. Last year, they outperformed expectations, and you saw how good he was. Everything that he did worked out, and everybody loved Buck. And this year, it's just a different dynamic. And I think a lot of this is on the players, too. I don't know, outside of Scherzer, how many really fiery, competitive guys are in there. Last year, when they got eliminated by the Padres, that clubhouse was just like, all right, time to go home, right? And I'm not doubting they care, but I think a lot of guys like Lindor are not super emotional and not super, vocal about their emotions. And I think that hurts them, especially when they're in this kind of stretch.
What are the chances that the Mets turn it around?
I mean, you guys know, you've been in those clubhouses. Tiny, tiny, tiny. Look, can they beat the Cincinnati? Yeah, I mean, could they do what Cincinnati did? Sure, but one, they're not in the Central. And two, they haven't even won 4 games in a row this year. So to go on a stretch where they're winning 10, 12, 14 games seems absurd, especially because they just haven't pitched. They haven't hit. It hasn't been like 1 or 2 guys. I was talking to this with Scherzer yesterday. I was like, have you ever been on a team, Max, where every single player is underperforming? Not like 2 or 3 guys, not like, half the team is playing, an average season and the rest kind of suck. Like every single guy on this roster sucks. And he said the 2014 Nationals, I haven't really looked it up to see if that's a good parallel here, but it is remarkable how bad everybody is. So I don't think that there's a turnaround coming. Like 2 or 3 guys may have a better second half, but is that enough to catch the Braves? No, it's not. Like, is that enough to leapfrog 10 teams? No, it's not. So I think they're probably going to have to be sellers at the trade deadline, which is the most insane thing ever, if you think about it, guys. This is literally the most expensive team in baseball, and they're going to hold up a big for sale sign in their front lawn and say, well, what do you want for these guys? Because we're giving them away.
I will say for the sport, it's awesome because the trade deadline was looking a little bit soft, right? Because there's so many teams that are in contention, and this is part of having an extra wild card because it makes more teams involved, which is mostly good because you don't want fan bases saying, see you later in May. But on the other end, this is where things are interesting because you have the Mets, you have the Cardinals for sure, and see how the Padres are doing, the Mariners are doing, teams like that. But we were talking for a while about like maybe Bieber, Stroman. Now it's like Scherzer, Verlander. Like, let's just start throwing big ass Mets names out there that have free agency coming up. Some of their relievers, I mean, they could do some serious selling. I think Max is probably the most obvious, and we saw Anthony DeComo kind of float out there that it at least sounds like he would most likely waive his no trade clause for me. Duh, because he wants to win and he's getting up there in years. Why wouldn't he want to be in the playoffs every year down the stretch? Max gets pissed. I can only imagine how fucking heated Max is right now.